So, disaster struck here last night. Major storm came through. I'm going to explain a lot of stuff here, but it was quite concerning. All this is going to be related. This is a vlog, of course, and I've got to work up to the punchline, but everything in this is going to be related to what happened last night. I've always said that you got to have a backup. Now, I know everybody's going to say, well, duh, of course you need a backup. But I don't think people think of backups the way I think of them. Now, you have the direct backup, which means I have a generator and I have a second generator, which I do. I have two generators. But I also have a lot of other ideas that I can use and have used to back up my backups. So I'm going to go through several of these items, just kind of get your mind thinking about what I'm talking about here. So, for example, I have electric solar panels. They produce about 30 amps. I mean, we've got some cracked solar panels, so they're not doing as well as they used to. I might add some more to them one of these days, but I don't really need to. I mean, these work pretty good. I got 1,000 watts, assuming they were all as efficient as possible. Then we have two generators. Now, we used to have three, well, two. One of them is a 2,000 watt inverter generator that has stopped running. So we replaced it with this little thing, this little 1,500 watt. And it doesn't do the amount of work the old one did, but I'm very happy with it. It can run 35 amps of battery charger. So what I have is I have two battery chargers. Go figure. I got to stay in the shade a little bit because of the sun on my selfie stick. It's one of these gyroscope selfie sticks, and it overheats, so I got to stay in the shade, otherwise it overheats and starts to droop on me. So I have those two battery chargers. They're both 2 amp, 10 amp, and 25 amp. So that generator can run one of the battery chargers at 25 amps and the second one at 10 amps. So that's a total of 35 amps. So if I need a lot of power from that generator that I used to have from the old generator, all I have to do is hook up the solar panels. Obviously, they're already hooked up, and put both battery chargers on that battery bank at the same time. So now I have 3 charging units, the solar panels and the 2 battery chargers. So that's giving me about 65 amps on a nice sunny day. So that way, if something happens to the big generator over there, I can run those and I'll be fine. Now that means I can only get the 65 amps on a sunny day. Otherwise, it's just the 35 amps, which is what the solar panels produce normally. So that's one of the ideas that I'm trying to disclose here, is I have my solar panels, and then most people will say, and then you got the generator as a backup. The generator isn't really a backup. A generator is a necessity. We have to have the generator because on cloudy days, I still have to have electric, so I still got to charge the batteries. Since we got the new rooster, he's always stirring them up. I think he sees squirrels out here and he gets all nervous. But the key is if I need to replace that generator that died, I got to figure out how to do that. Now, another option I have is I got the truck, the pickup truck. I have a 2,000 watt inverter. So I can hook that inverter up to the pickup truck. I can start the pickup truck and I can run 2,000 watts off the truck if I needed to. The 2,000 watt inverter can replace the 2,000 watt inverter generator. Now, I'm not too sure my little 4-cylinder pickup truck alternator is producing a lot of electric. When we were nomads, I never noticed it producing a lot, and I Googled it, and they have this efficient alternator on it, and it's supposed to charge over a long period of time instead of charging it real fast. So if that was the case, I still may have to run this little generator and a battery charger to the pickup truck to help supplement the alternator. So again, I'm using all the systems that I have and put them all together to give me a lot of power if I need it. Now, Carolyn's son is going to need the air conditioner this summer, and so my plan was to give him the 2,000 watt inverter generator. Well, then it died, so I had to think of something else. So the plan is the 2 battery chargers against this little generator, charging the batteries with the solar panels. I know to give him all the electric he needs. And then I got to thinking about this. It's actually going to save gas. It's a bonus because this one doesn't, just sips gas. Another backup that I have, again, kind of thinking outside the box, is my water system. My water system, we filled the tank, the IBC tank, which I've showed you many times, with the well. And there's the tank. And so then the RV pump in there pumps water into the house through the water heater, and we can have hot water. If the RV pump were to die, I have a backup one. Of course, I'm supposed to have a backup because it's something we need. But if it's frozen like it was last winter, I still need water. Well, I can't get water out of the tank. So all I got to do is take this hose from the well and run it through this window here, and I can hook it up to the water heater and disconnect the RV pump. So now I can just run the well straight into the water heater. We actually started doing that with Carolyn's son, but now we've got him hooked up to our RV pump also with this little green hose. So we're sharing the water tank now. A little bit more convenient. So again, I've got multiple ways of being able to supply water to our house if necessary. So using these kind of mindsets, this is how I was able to hook up that camper that Carolyn's son's living in to our existing system, is I just had to think a little bit harder about the things we already had available to us and utilize them more efficiently, is really what I'm doing. Now, of course, we also have multiple heat sources. We have two, and that's just a direct, there's no outside of the box thinking with our heat, really. We have the wood, and I can't imagine anything ever happening where we couldn't burn firewood. It would really be a stretch to say that there was going to be something wrong with the wood stove that we couldn't burn firewood. Last year, I guess it was last winter, the winter before last, we started running out of dry firewood, so we used our buddy heater. And that served as a good backup, and we have it available. It uses a lot of propane, so I didn't want to use propane because it costs money, whereas the firewood doesn't. But now Carolyn's son is here, he's using that buddy heater. Now, what we think we're gonna do this winter, if he's still here, is we're gonna get a blue flame heater. So then we'll have a blue flame heater in there, a buddy heater as a backup, and then the wood stove. Now, as far as hot water, the water heater is very convenient. Just turn on the water heater kicks on, and we have hot water. But if something were to happen, Carolyn has this always available. She's always out here splitting wood. Of course, she cooks out here also, which is basically another backup. She cooks out here a lot. And I wouldn't even say this is really a backup. She uses it so much. But she's got the camp stove also that she cooks with. But if we needed to heat water up, we could heat it on the wood here, or we could heat it on the camp stove. Now, we also have a backup water heater. We're actually using our backup. Originally, we had the old water heater in the house. Right now, it's in the camper. And it stopped working correctly. So we replaced it with our backup. Well, when we got the backup put in place, we realized it was the water pump must have been losing pressure somehow. So we replaced the water pump, and the water heater, I figured, worked fine. Well, now that we have it in his camper, we know it works fine. So we have the old one as a backup in his camper, and the new one is the primary. Here's the way I try to look at backup systems. Anything that I can't live without, I have a backup for. So water, electric, hot water, and food, we have backups. So for our food, we have canned food and we have the freezer. If something were to happen to the freezer, we would have a few days to be able to start canning all that food. But we also have all that canned food that we can start eating immediately. So I always try to think in pairs when I'm thinking about things that I have to have. But now that I've lost that 2,000 watt generator, it's taken a lot more effort to think things through. Because I bought that smaller one, and it just can't power like the well. It can't power the well. But when I look at the well, I have the dual fuel generator, which runs off gasoline and propane. And this is the one that stopped running on us. It still runs. Of course, I've got it all tore apart right now. It still runs, but after a while it starts to heat up. I'm going to play with it a little bit more. I've come up with some different ideas that might be that I don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Since this one was 2,000 watts and the other one's 1,500 watts, that small one just isn't doing what we needed to do. So again, I got to think outside the box, which means I got to use my battery system more efficiently. So last night, the dual fuel broke. I've told you in the past that when it's cold, it's hard to pull. For some reason, it is just really hard to pull. But I have figured out a way around that, and just recently, like within the last few days. It used to be that I would pull this as hard as fast as I could, and it would yank out of my hand and slap my foot. Well, what I've realized is if I pull it real slow, and I can get past it, you see how I'm lifting up the generator? That's really hard to pull. But if I can get past that compression problem, I go real slow. What it is, I think it is the propane has so much pressure behind it, even though it's got the pressure regulator, that the cylinder has to fight that pressure. And so you got to get that to vent off is what you got to do. So you pull that real slow a couple times, and then you can jerk it pretty fast. Well, it has been such a struggle that the pull rope literally broke. I've never seen this happen before. But you can see this is the inner portion that goes in like this. But you can see that all these little plastic pieces busted off. So that piece hooks up to right here, this piece right here. See, so all that busted off. Well, I mean, I panicked, of course, because last night it was supposed to rain. And it did. And I was worried that the well was going to get dirty. I've talked about this before. When we have flooding, torrential rains, that water rushes down so fast that it overwhelms my system, my construction site here, the concrete, everything, and just goes right down into the well. I was concerned that was going to happen, so I wanted to get the tank filled before it rained. I try to do that regularly anyways, just so if it rains, I got clean water in the tank. So after I got the chickens fed, it was probably 8:30. It was starting to get really dark. I came up here, I pulled it, and it broke. Well, now what am I going to do? I can't even run my system the way I said I was going to have the inverter with the solar panels and the two battery chargers. Well, I didn't have solar panels because it was dark. So I thought, well, maybe I could hook the truck up. Go ahead and hook the truck up, get the inverter on it, put a battery charger on it, and at least get the well running so I can get that tank filled up. But then I thought, you know what? The old generator had a pull rope on it. I just replaced it last year. The rope actually broke on that one. That's what I usually see is the rope breaks. So I replaced it last year. Well, it's brand spanking new basically. So I took that one off in the dark with the little headlamp on, and I took this apart and replaced it last night. It was starting to get late. It was 9:30, 10 o'clock by the time I got everything done. Got it all put back together, got the tank filled up. So I decided I'm going to have a backup of one of those pull starters also. So again, you're always thinking about how many backups you can have. I don't think you can have enough when it's about things you have to have. If this generator would have went out, we could have still gotten water. It would have been a lot more work, but we could have still gotten water until we could have gotten this replaced. I asked Carolyn this morning, if this had actually broke, what would we have done? Would we went and got one of these cheaper models at the Tractor Supply? Or would we have ordered the propane dual fuel off Amazon? Because that would have taken a few days to get here. And I think we would probably replace the dual fuel. Carolyn's also suggesting getting a real cheap $200 one, 3,000 or 4,000 watts, you know, those industrial noisy ones, just to have around, just in case, you know, those kind of things happen. But we have so many backups. I really don't fear having a problem too many times. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about the state of Missouri banning off-grid living. So I hope I can inspire you to have plenty of backups, not just the actual backup, but alternative, outside the box thinking backups, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.